Just found out that my wife has been cheating on me with our sadovnikum that we got married young and have been together for about 10 years. Everything has always seemed perfect from the outside, looking in. Our friends would always tell us how much they invited our relationship, and that was something we kind of loved. However, we had our share of troubles, that we were just really good at hiding them. Almost nobody in our lives knew this, but we separated a few years ago, and we thought we might divorce. But the old saying, absence makes the heart grow fonder, really proved to be true with us. After we got back together, we were stronger than ever. Both my wife and I wanted children, but due to some health issues, my wife, as we knew that a pregnancy for her would be very high risk, our plan was always to try and adopt a child, once we had the financial ability to do so. At the start of the pandemic, she and I were part of the big puppy boom that happened. Since both of us were home so much, we decided it would be the perfect time to adopt that. We adopted a golden retriever pup from rescue, and it quickly became the central focus of our lives. We thought that since we would both be home with it all the time, there wouldn't be any issues, but neither of us was prepared for the energy this dog had, that if we didn't let it out to run several times a day, then it would tear our house apart, while it was trying to exert some of its excess energy, that we ended up hiring a dog walker who would come to the house a few times a day while we were working to take him out on long walks, run with him, take him to the park, etc. The guy we hired was a graduate student at the local university who was just trying to tove up some money while he was in school. When I first met him, I thought that he was a nice kid. Dewey loved the dog, and he was friendly enough with my wife and me that I work in pharmaceutical sales. So a large part of my job requires me to travel and meet face-to-face clients. When everything started to go into the green, my usual workload resumed, and I was traveling again. Wife was still working remotely. There were a lot of nights that I had to leave her home alone. We had both been huge true crime podcast listeners, so we were a bit paranoid about her being alone. So we had a pretty solid security system installed throughout the entire house. One night, I was working late. My team had an overseas conference call. And I hadn't planned on being home until at least 8 p.m. That I got a notification on my phone that one of the cameras at my house had been turned off. I stepped away and took a look through all of the cameras on my phone and realized that one of the hall cameras had gone out. That it struck me as very odd. And like I said, we were a bit paranoid about crime, so I was worried. That I called my wife right away to make sure she was all right. But I didn't get any answer. That only made my paranoia worse. That I looked through the other cameras to see if I saw any sign of my wife or an intruder. But I didn't see anything. That I called her again, and still there was no answer. After explaining my concerns to my coworkers, everybody agreed that it would be best for me to leave just to make sure everything was all right. God forbid anything happened, and I was stuck at work. I drove back to the house as quickly as I could and rushed inside. Screaming my wife's name while I went looking for her. My dog ran right up to me, jumping on me like he always does, acting like nothing was happening. That eased some of my worries, but I still needed to get eyes on my wife. That I ran up to the bedroom, taking a brief glance at the camera and the hall to see that it was fine. When I turned the knob on our bedroom door, it was locked. That I banged on it and called my wife's name, hearing a little bit of scuffling behind the door. That I've never been much of a hath type of guy, but I thought something was happening inside of the room, so I kicked the door. And I walked through the broken door frame and saw my wife completely naked and actively trying to hide our dog walker in the closet. They both froze when they saw me. The camera being shut off suddenly made sense. If she was sneaking him into our bedroom, she didn't want to leave any trail behind, for me to potentially see. That I was in complete shock when I saw it. My adrenaline was still pumping from thinking that there was some sort of intruder in the house. My wife was trying to say something to me, but I could hardly hear anything she was saying. The only thing that I was focusing on was the man in my closet. That I wanted to rip his head off, but I knew that getting physical was only going to hurt me. That in the end, without saying anything at all, I walked right out of the house and drove away. My phone was blowing up from my wife as well as some of my coworkers, making sure everything was okay. A few days past and I just tried to think about my next steps moving forward. That I was definitely going to be developing my own way of life. Divorcing my wife, there was no chance that I would be staying with her and potentially raising a child with her after what she did. In fact, I confessed what happened to one of my coworkers, and they helped me to figure out a way to get back at them both. We had actually recommended the dog walker to a lot of people in our neighborhood, because we liked him so much when he first started. On top of that, my wife was very involved in the community service circle. In hindsight, their sleeping together was very clearly premeditated. If my wife had the foresight to turn off the cameras to hide him, then they must have had some kind of chat about it, that I looked through our phone bill to try to find any messages between them. Dot and I found a treasure trove of explicit messages they exchanged with the help of my coworker. We published a small pamphlet full of the details of their affair, which had apparently been going on for quite some time. This was just the first time they had done it in the house, that I went door-to-door and handed the pamphlets directly to the adults of the houses. That I watched their faces for a moment when they realized what it was. It was scandalous news. And I just knew that they would be talking about it for a while. And why wife was treated like a leper in the neighborhood after that. All of the friends she made during the time we lived there turned their backs on her. And she was all alone. On top of that, the dog walker was fired for more than half of the jobs he had in our neighborhood. After I turned everyone we knew against her, my wife didn't put up a fight during the divorce. That I had enough evidence anyway to keep her away from all of the assets. That I've had to keep the house, which I turned around and sold shortly after everything was settled. Now I'm ready to move on with my life and forget all about her, and hopefully find someone else that I can be happy with moving forward. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories like this. See you next time.